COVID lockdown boredom set in, we decided to make something of the time by building ourselves a 45mm gauge railway in the garden. This would be suitable for either G scale or eventually migrating to G1 scale. After marking out the track and getting the levels correct, we set about digging a trench all the way around the garden following the line of the track, using curved tracks and straight edges as jigs to mark out the route of the track. After this, we lined the sides of the track bed with engineer's bricks, and these were used to delineate the garden from the railway and also to set the level of the ballast. At the bottom of the trench was put hardcore. This was to provide a firm foundation for the railway. On top of the hardcore we put down some sand to level it and then a weed-proof membrane. Here a path is excavated and provided a valuable source of hardcore, and cutting was dug to take the railway deep into the ground, which released all these roots which had to be cut out and dug out. And then finally the track bed through the cuttings put in place and the track level marked by the engineer's bricks. And now the two parts of the railway start to come together, and we can see the ballast going down, the weed-proof membrane, and then the cutting walls made of plastic edging. And the tracks are ready now to be joined up. Will they be at the same level? Well, indeed they were, and here we can see the level being measured at the point where the footbridge goes over the railway to get you into the middle of the track. And this is the site of the overbridge with the parapet installed, ready for the final touches to be made to the track. And at last it's time for a test train. This little toy radio controlled Bachmann locomotive was our first run on the track. A great moment. And now it's time to start sorting out all the various inconsistencies and running difficulties there were on the track by running even more trains. And here we see this little toy locomotive valiantly pulling the train that came out of the set that it was delivered with down the back straight of the line. The objective was to build a railway that ran round the garden rather than above it and formed part of the landscape. We wanted to have long straights and curves that wouldn't reduce the straights but without looking ridiculous. The level is found on the track by there being cuttings and bankings because the level of the garden varied greatly. But after many test runs, things started to be sorted out and the trains were running reliably. All the trains are battery controlled or battery powered and controlled by radio control, which removes the need for any electrical systems on the track and us having to worry about the track being too dirty to pick up power, and also gives very smooth slow running at more realistic speeds. And there you can see the train running under the tractor shed. And here we see a complete lap of the track. This is another little locomotive we bought cheaply. It didn't run particularly well. Its radio control was very rudimentary. It's recently been rebuilt, and the aim was to have a bit of interest with curves and bankings. And here you can see the train running into the cutting, and the railway climbs up out of the cutting and underneath the footbridge that runs into the centre of the track. Well, it did run under the footbridge when the roadway or walkway was put in place. And then the longest run on the track, the longest straight on the track, would turn round, reasonably tight curve, and then runs right the way down the length of the garden, climbing to start with, and then the track drops away to the next curve down by one of the vantage points that's been landscaped into the garden. Slightly more open curve here, and climbing up and steadily rising to the curve at the approach to the station. This one is another open curve. Now the train turns through the curve and climbs steadily up to where the station platforms are going to be. So that's how the basic railway was built. There's a lot more to see about how we built up a rolling stock and locomotive fleet and developed the infrastructure to make it a little bit more interesting. If you've enjoyed this video about the building of the Stonehurst Line, please could you like the video and perhaps consider subscribing to the channel, which is a very great help. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you again on the channel before too long. Goodbye.